An announcement was made. Change was coming. Uncertainty lay ahead. In 1947, the British announced they were leaving India. After nearly 2 centuries of colonial rule, a momentous sunrise over New Delhi. With the lowering of the Union Jack, the world watched as the Indian tricolour was raised, signaling the birth of a free nation. A time for celebration across the nations. This is the dawn of a new era for all. While India celebrated, a new nation was born in Karachi. But amidst the joy, the question of Kashmir loomed large.
Kashmir was different from most of India. It had its own history, its own culture, its own local leadership.
The partition principle divided the subcontinent based on religious majorities. A dangerous vacuum was let by the British departure. The burden of decision fell to the Maharaja. Who decides? This is what logical partition actually meant. And this chaos was supposed to affect Kashmir too. As weeks passed, the crisis deepened. Armed groups and military forces began moving toward Kashmir from multiple directions. In late 1947, the invasion begins. Disguised as tribal warriors, Pakistani forces are rapidly advancing towards Srinagar. It was a forced hand.
I need military support immediately. Only India can provide rapid assistance.
Get moving! We cross here! They're coming!
The Maharaja is first to choose now.
The clock ticked relentlessly, a stark reminder of the impending deadline. He faced 3 stark choices: accession to India, Pakistan, or independence. August 15, 1947. The stroke of a pen would decide the fate of millions. For the Maharaja of Kashmir, this was the problem.
No, I will decide in my time. I want to preserve my own power and autonomy.
The geography of Kashmir presented a unique dilemma. A Muslim majority ruled by a Hindu Maharaja, bordered by both newly formed nations. The instrument of accession is signed. On October 26, 1947, the Maharaja made his final decision.
After the decision of October 26, 1947, Kashmir entered an institutional state that had no name.
The conflict that followed lasted over a year. From late 1947 through early 1949, the United Nations made a solemn promise. Kashmiris will decide their own future through a democratic vote. The resolutions called for a ceasefire and the implementation of a plebiscite. This diplomatic intervention brought hope for peace. The United Nations Security Council is now formally involved in the resolution of the conflict, demanding an immediate cessation of hostilities. A referendum shall decide, but the promise was never kept. The betrayal that changed everything. By the 1950s, the pattern was set. Kashmir was divided by a line that was supposed to be temporary. Kashmiris were waiting for a referendum that would never come. The United Nations was clear. This ceasefire line was temporary. It existed only until a referendum could be held. Kashmiris would vote on their future. They waited. Waiting. And hesitation became a disaster. Weeks passed. Months passed. Years passed. Something terrible happened. What was intended as a temporary ceasefire line tragically became permanent. In 1950, India adopted its constitution, establishing a sovereign democratic republic. This act formally integrated Kashmir. But there was a catch. Article 370 had a clause. Article 370 provided a special status, acting as a bridge between accession and self-determination. It was supposed to be a bridge, honoring both the accession and the right to self-determination, a philosophical concept that should have worked.
For decades, this hung over Kashmir. The special status was there, but uncertain, precarious. The sword of Damocles.
Indian officials kept saying, this accession is temporary. The referendum will happen. Kashmir will choose its future. Pakistani officials said the same thing. This ceasefire is temporary. The plebiscite will decide.
Despite the public promises, but behind closed doors, the machinery of permanent incorporation was already being built.
The integration began with the methodical establishment of Indian military garrisons and administrative centers. Once you station an army somewhere, it's hard to remove. Once you integrate a bureaucracy, it's hard to separate. And Kashmiris? They were trapped. They couldn't accept this as permanent, because that would mean accepting a decision made without their consent. But they couldn't effectively resist, because the machinery was too strong. So they lived in a state of limbo.
So what does living in limbo mean?
Imagine you're a teacher in Srinagar in 1955. You're qualified, you want to teach, but there's uncertainty. Will Kashmir remain independent?
The impossible choice. Will it be part of India? Should you invest in building a career here? Should you emigrate? Businesses face the same uncertainty. Investors don't know what the political future holds, so they hesitate. Families are split. The ceasefire line divides villages. A mother on one side of the line can't easily visit her daughter on the other side.
For months, sometimes years, letters take weeks to arrive. Phone calls are impossible.
Young people feel hopeless. They see their valley divided. They see their promised vote not happening. They see external powers controlling their future. And they feel powerless. Depression, alcoholism, and suicide rates increase. Families break apart. Mental health deteriorates.
This isn't just political theory. This is the lived experience of millions of Kashmiris over 7 decades.
Living in uncertainty. Living in a temporary situation that becomes permanent. Living with a broken promise.
By 1965, 18 years have passed since the plebiscite was promised. Kashmiris are losing patience. The temporary has become permanent.
The promised referendum hasn't happened, and the situation is becoming worse, not better. So what happens? Another war. In September 1965, Pakistan invades Kashmir again.
It's a military operation called Operation Gibraltar, meant to trigger an uprising among Kashmiris against Indian rule.
But the uprising doesn't happen. Why? Because Kashmiris, despite their frustrations, don't support Pakistani military intervention.
They've fought their own independence movement. They don't want to be conquered by Pakistan either. So the 1965 war is just another chapter in Kashmir's tragedy. India and Pakistan fight, and Kashmiris suffer.
The ceasefire line remains in place. And the plebiscite? Still hasn't happened. Still won't happen.
After 1965, Indian officials stopped talking about the referendum. They stopped mentioning it publicly. It becomes a taboo subject. And Kashmiris realize the promise is dead. It's never going to happen. They've been waiting for 18 years for a vote that will never come. We built this movement on the promise of peace and secularism. Though the years have been difficult, our resolve remains. A Kashmiri leader was imprisoned by India for years. Imprisoned by the government that claimed to represent him. The promise of democracy had proven false. Legal channels for self-determination had been blocked. the referendum would never happen. So young Kashmiris began to ask, if democracy doesn't work, what does? In the late 1960s and 1970s, a new movement emerged. It was no longer just about independence. When promises are broken, some will eventually turn to violence. Not because they're inherently violent, but because they feel unheard. It was about liberation. And some, not all, but some, began to believe that armed struggle was the only language India would understand. In 1971, the old lion of Kashmir, now aging, still believed in peaceful struggle, but youth losing patience.
Pakistan's military establishment saw an opportunity. They didn't create the anger, but they weaponized it. They organized it. They funded it.
And by the 1980s, this generational divide would explode into armed militancy and would transform Kashmir forever.
So what started as a Kashmiri political movement became a proxy battleground. The struggle was hijacked, redirected, used as a tool, and that changed everything.
Remember your oath. We march now for freedom. Move out.
The story of Kashmir doesn't end here. It continues in episode 3. Make sure you're there when it drops. Stay tuned for episode 3, where we'll explore what comes next for Kashmir, the armed struggle, the human cost, and the path toward 2040.
You've witnessed 500 years of Kashmir's story. Promises made, promises broken, voices silenced.
But the story isn't over. Episode 3 is where voices fight back. Subscribe to Past to Future. Press the bell icon.
History isn't something you watch, it's something you participate in by staying informed. Don't miss what comes next.
And, the most important, we'll show you how a self-proclaimed big brother, who today even dares to call himself the father of a nation that actually predates him by 500 years, is unleashing endless atrocities upon them. And all of this, simply because they had the audacity to ask for their basic rights.
Thank you for watching. We'll continue this story in the next episode. Stay tuned, and until then, take care.